The beginning of a story usually tells you everything you need to know about how it's going to end. When the team behind Path to Nowhere reached out to me, they didn't ask me to talk about spreadsheets or power creep. They asked me to talk about a story, a deep, remarkably dark story that has been quietly unfolding for a few years now. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for these kinds of narratives, the ones that don't try to sell you a clean, happy ending, but instead ask you to sit in the dirt and look at what is left of humanity after the lights go out. Most people see a game about catching criminals and assume it is a standard power fantasy, but after spending some time in this city, I realized it's actually a study on obsession, trauma, and the thin blurring line between a savior and a monster. I decided to give it a chance, as both a player and an observer. I found a world that wants to be understood, more than simply played. Well, you see, the end of the world in this story is a slow, grinding decline rather than a single loud explosion. It is not a movie where everyone dies in the first 10 minutes. Instead, the Nightfall era is a process of decay. Think of it like a house that is slowly rotting from the inside out. It's still standing, but the foundations are gone. Everything started with a perishing star. It was a giant rock from space that hit the planet. Beyond breaking buildings or burning cities, it broke the human mind. It triggered something called mania. You can think of mania like a mental sickness that turns people's deepest fears and desires into literal monsters. It is a world where being too sad or too angry does way more harm than ruin your day. It can physically end the world around you. In the middle of all of this is you, the chief. Now, most games want you to feel like a traditional hero, a chosen one with a shiny sword, but here you are more like a shepherd for monsters, or maybe just a very stressed out warden, right? You run the MBCC, the Minos Bureau of Crisis Control. It is a fancy name for a secret prison built right on the edge of total madness. Your job is to find the sinners, people who have been infected by mania but gained scary, forbidden powers instead of turning into mindless beasts, and lock them up. You use the shackles instead of simply locking them in a cell. The shackles are the core of your burden. It is a power that lets you physically and mentally link yourself to these sinners. It is not a clean connection. It's intimate, it's painful, it's heavy. Every time you shackle a new sinner, you're basically tying your life into a ticking time bomb. You are the only person who can control them, which means if you fail or if you blink at the wrong time, everything falls apart. The world of this city is terrified of these sinners, yet they are the only ones who can actually fight the corruption. It is a weird, desperate paradox. You are governing a group of people that the public wants dead, using them to save a public that hates you for it. And that brings us to the MBCC itself. It is an institution built on the edge of a black hole. Its entire purpose is to use that forbidden power from the sinners to keep the lights on, while trying to make sure the terrifying madness doesn't leak out and swallow what is left of civilization. It is a high-stakes balancing act where the floor is made of glass and you're the one holding the heavyweights. Looking back though, it's hard not to feel the weight of Syndicate. It's the kind of place that stays with you, mostly because of how many people we tried to save and couldn't. Take the Salva Hospital arc. That was our first real lesson in just how severe the problems in Syndicate actually are. You had Dr. Iron and the nurse, Anne, two people who genuinely wanted to heal the sick. In any other story, they would be heroes. But in this city, healing often looks just as extreme as the sickness itself. Iron and Anne are genuinely treating people infected with the mania rather than trying to build an army. Iron's work involves psychosurgery, which is just a fancy way of saying she performs surgery in the brain to reduce the violent tendencies of those who are infected. Meanwhile, Anne spends her time collecting and freezing mania samples, hoping to find a cure through her experiments. Essentially, both are obsessively trying to save lives, but their methods are rather extreme. The real tragedy here is that despite Iron and Anne striving relentlessly to cure the mania, it is just not possible. Syndicate's problems are just way too severe. We see many people like the gray-haired girl who desperately want to live even though they suffer immense pain. But in the end, they still become weapons used by villains and suffer greatly. It portrays a cruel reality. We try our best, but we can't change their fates. And then there's the Legion, or what's left of it. Losing Zoya at Kalen Square was about more than losing a powerful ally. Zoya was the heart of Syndicate. She was the personification of survival. The idea that if you're strong enough and loud enough, you can actually change things. When she disappeared into that black ring, she left a powerful vacuum, a big empty hole that sucks everything else in. And for the 2 years since, the characters have just been wandering through this long night she left behind. Without her, the fire in Syndicate basically went out. And then there is the coma. For us, the players, the 6-month gap after the Rustfire Civil War was just the screen fading to black. But for the sinners back in the MBCC, it was a void. Think about Hecate and Hela. I know many players see Hecate and Hela as subordinates and also cherish them like daughters. After reading the Rustfire Civil War, I understood why. Their entire world is built around the shackles. When the chief went into coma, their growth just stopped. They're traumatized kids who are forced to fight the very things that broke them. When you're not there to hold the shackles, they're more than alone. They're stagnant. They're stuck, unable to move forward or get better. They're just waiting in the dark for a voice that isn't answering. It makes you realize that being the chief is about more than winning battles. It is about being the only reason these people have a tomorrow to wake up to. Moving out of the mud and blood of Syndicate feels strange. It is a complete aesthetic pivot. The game suddenly looks very different. We're leaving the rust and the rain for the dawn of Fraser City. It is clean, it is noble, and it's quiet. But don't let the nice buildings fool you. They call this update the Thorny Roads to Dawn. And the name is a bit of a warning. In Syndicate, if someone hated you, they would try to take your head off with a chainsaw. In Fraser City, they'll smile at you. Well, they sign a paper that ruins your life. It is a mask. The corruption hasn't gone away. It's just learned how to use a fork and a knife. And right at the center of this polished surface is Margaret. She is the peace ambassador. On the outside, she is elegant and seemingly very gentle, but the game calls her a wolf in sheep's clothing, and that is a perfect description of how the sinners are evolving. In this updated story, we can see how she uses the power of peace to change the world according to her own will. Her official position is that of a peace ambassador, but in reality, she is a deeply embedded intelligence agent. She leads multiple high-risk infiltration operations, has built a massive network of contacts, and possesses extremely strong behind-the-scenes operational capabilities. Margaret doesn't fight because she has to. She finds actual pleasure in manipulating people. She likes to play with the fine lines between power and hatred. And then you have Rust. If Margaret is the bright, sharp lights of Fraser City, Rust is the shadow. Compared to Margaret's overt manipulation of power, Rust is an agent who operates strictly in the shadows. At first, he might seem like another amnesiac, but his situation is much darker. His memories weren't actually altered by others. Simply put, after surviving the Black Ring, even if his physical body dies, his consciousness returns to the Black Ring. The next time he appears, he invades and takes over other bodies that have been pushed to their limit by mania. And because of this cycle, his memories are fragmented from dying so many times, he is constantly changing his body and his identity, which is exactly what makes him a highly skilled agent. It makes you wonder if Dawn is actually a good thing, or if it's just the lights finally revealing how deep the thorns actually go. But then there's Helga. In a world of young, elegant sinners, Helga is a statement. Look at her. She is incredibly strong and cool for her age. I bet she has seen enough of life to know when someone is lying to her. In a genre that usually obsesses over youth, having a character like Helga feels grounded. She is a mechanic in Fraser City, someone who spends her days fixing broken pipes and old appliances. She is approachable and friendly, the kind of person children trust. But that's just the surface. Underneath the grease and the friendly smile, she harbors a long-standing resentment toward the people in charge. She has been angry at the government for a very, very long time. This brings us to her other side, the hyena. While she's a mechanic by day, she is an ace sniper by night, working with an underground arm organization. A hyena is a predator that is famous for being wild and tenacious, which means she doesn't give up, no matter how hard things get. She represents that raw survival instinct that the noble air of Fraser City tries so hard to hide. Even in this civilized new city, there are still predators lurking in the smoke, waiting for the right moment to pull the trigger. There's also this quiet, beautiful connection between her and the chief. Helga's main hobby is repairing old broken items that other people have thrown away. She finds a sense of accomplishment in turning waste into treasure. If you think about it, that is exactly what the chief does at the MBCC. You can take these sinners, people the world has discarded or called monsters, and you try to mend them. You give them a sense of purpose again. It is a shared heritage, a common way of living. It is a quiet acknowledgement that everything in the Nightfall era is scavenged and repurposed. Nothing is truly new. Everything is just something old that has been fixed up well enough to survive another day. It is that kind of grit that makes her the perfect anchor for this new chapter. She reminds us that no matter how much the setting changes, the struggle to stay human remains the same. Which brings us to a moment many have been anticipating. Even though she hasn't made her official return to the main storyline yet, Zoya's presence is felt more strongly than ever in this update. The highlight here is the addition of her new 4-star attire, which comes with a reforge, essentially a significant buff to her power in-game. This attire features 2 distinct forms and a allows for direct interaction with the chief rather than being a static look. It serves as a narrative tool, a quiet reminder of that unique bond between the warden and the Legion's leader. Even while she remains at a distance from the current plots, the game even changed its official app icon to her face for the first time. That is a big signal. We believe that Zoya will definitely return in the near future, and we look forward to that day. So we find ourselves on the Thorny Roads to Dawn. It is a bit of a name that sounds nice, but hides a dark truth. The road is still thorny, it is still going to hurt. But for a chief who has seen the things we have seen, there is no other way but forward. This version gives you some help, of course. You get the S-Class selection and 32 free draws. That is insane. Ultimately, Path to Nowhere is a story about holding onto a tiny flicker of light while the darkness actively tries to blow it out. It is a game that asks a very simple, very heavy question. Is it actually possible to belong anywhere when your very existence is considered a crime? Fraser City is opening its gates to the borough, but looking at the wolf in sheep's clothing and the hyena hiding in the smoke, do you think we're walking toward a new beginning or just a more elegant end? I'd be interested to hear how you're interpreting the Thorny Road in the comments below. But that is all from me, 𝗖𝗍𝗆𝗍, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers!